I don't believe I'm the only person that's heard this, right? You probably wrote about this in a blog post somewhere.
So I actually did not write about this in a blog post anywhere. This is just what I did, and I think
Wow.
it's.
Are you still there? To delete this message, press 7. To save it in the archives, press 9. To hear more options, press 0.
What are you talking about?
I think we've covered everything. Except, what is that? Sirens? Do I hear? We actually have Jeff Lee, the mystery fighter, that wrote this article, that got the 7 offers, and he is here to talk to us live. And by live, I mean pre-recorded. Let's talk to him now. I hope you stay until the end of the interview because I have something to say. Peace. Jeff Lee, thank you so much for joining. It means a lot for you to be on the show. I've never heard of anybody with this caliber of job offers, especially in the global pandemic. So first of all, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. Glad to be on the show.
Let's reverse engineer your choice to work at your current company. What made you pick that job offer out of the 7?
Before I even really got all the job offers, I actually found it very important to really clarify what my career values are. And I think everybody kind of has a different set of career values on what they're indexing for. Some people could be indexing more for learning. Some could be indexing more for the company they're working at. Some could be indexing more for the work. So for me, my most important thing was a company mission and a product that I loved. That was the first one. I would say the second one was more just interesting work. So would I be working on problems that I was just intrinsically interested in? And the third one was more on just ensuring that I had really good support from both the management and the director side. So those were the kind of the top 3 things I was indexing for. But I would say that the things I was explicitly not indexing as much for was maybe like location, getting paid a ton. I had offers from, say, Spotify, Apple, Disney Plus, Bird, SoFi Finance, Delivery Hero, and Convoy. And
Wow.
my top 3 were Spotify, Apple, and Disney Plus.
Okay. What made those rise above the rest? You've already told us how you index them, but maybe like how does Disney Plus compare to Spotify, for example?
Yeah, so I think that it was like after my interviews and after I got the offer, they were pretty dead even. So for me, it was just like very hard to differentiate all of them. So I think the way I kind of thought about it was first to kind of evaluate it through the lens of those values that I say listed for you before, and what and as a data scientist, I kind of scored them. So I gave them like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and kind of gave it a comparative score as well. But I think a lot of these life decisions, it's not like being super quantitative isn't necessarily the best approach. There's got to be a mix of both kind of what does your heart say versus what do the numbers say. So with like Disney Plus, I really liked, I don't really use Disney Plus. So that was like one part of it that kind of put them a little bit lower. Their interview is really, really tough. So I think one of the questions was like actually I don't know if I can talk about that, but
Oh, sure.
some of their questions were pretty tough, kind of asking me to code a lot of these algorithms from scratch. And I felt the team was really, really strong. Just the questions that they were asking me related to my projects, I just got an idea that they were going to be very, very technically strong. So that was kind of a big positive for me with Disney Plus. And so that was like the main kind of that's kind of how I evaluated that offer. And
Okay.
I think I missed the second part of your question, or if you had a second part of your question.
No, that was really
Okay.
what I was looking for. But I wanted to ask. Now we're starting to slowly move back from the decision making process when you get the offers. Let's talk about. Generally, were these offers for machine learning engineer roles or pure data science roles? What was the makeup of these offers?
So I would say that, yeah, there were a range of them. There were both data scientist roles and machine learning engineer roles. I think that every company has a bit of a different definition of what these titles are.
Right.
But yeah, I would say both data scientists and machine learning engineers.
Let's break up the kinds of. I know you can't talk about the questions themselves, but maybe just the proportion of questions that had that were all about Python, were all about SQL, and were all about systems design. How would you break them up for the roles that were data scientist versus machine learning engineer, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so I actually I did an analysis on all the interview questions that I got. So I actually tracked all of it, and I was actually surprised. I got asked machine learning questions the most often, and then what came in second was probably Python and SQL, and then statistics came a little bit lower. I think it was mainly because I had a lot of experience building out ML models at DoorDash, so that's kind of like the experience that also got my foot in the door with those positions, and that kind of led to a lot of the questions that they asked me. But so I actually got asked machine learning questions the most. I would have expected myself to get asked SQL questions, but yeah, when I tallied up the numbers, it was more machine learning.
Can you cover any of the general makeup of what a question looks like towards the final rounds? Like, what would a machine learning question be in non-specific but specific enough terms?
Yeah, so I would say that generally machine learning questions are a combination of a case study. So they'll give you kind of a business problem or like more of an ML focused business problem, and then they'll just ask you to kind of break the problem down and try to see how you use machine learning concepts to solve this problem. That's the first type. The second type is just more conceptual. So they'll ask you things like, hey, what is the difference between lasso and ridge? How do you kind of deal with overfitting with tree-based models? So I think that the case studies it's a little bit heavier on the case study because they want to actually see how you can apply machine learning to solve a business problem. Comparing it to like just, you can just memorize concepts and be able to answer a lot of those conceptual questions.
Okay, so more often you were answering like actual product sense and case study questions versus just trivia questions.
Yes, and in a sense, it's not really product sense questions. They were kind of like I get one example. Like I guess the more generic example is just like, okay, hey, like product manager comes to you. They want to help you design. They want you to design this like recommendation system to help rank, I don't know, movies on their homepage. How would you go about solving this problem? So it would be something like very open-ended. So very similar to a product sense question where the question's very open-ended, but it's very like machine learning focused. You'll be kind of expected to apply machine learning concepts to this specific business problem.
Okay. I had a question in my brain, but then it just flew away. So 1 second. Was your question breakdown analysis in this article? Sorry.
No, it wasn't. The article is getting too long, so I was like, all right, I'm not trying to make this like, because I've had things in the past where I've written like super long blog posts, and then people get tired these days reading like 5,000 page blog posts, so I shortened it up.
Reading fatigue, I totally get it, but I wish I could get into writing the same way you do. Let's talk about machine learning. How to prepare yourself for those kind of machine learning questions. What did you do to prepare? And how would you, since you already had the industry experience from working at DoorDash, how would you be able to explain to a beginner where the resources are to prepare these questions?
Yeah, so how would I prepare for machine learning questions? So I think there's I introduced kind of two types of questions, conceptual questions and case study questions. So I think that they both kind of go hand in hand. So knowing the conceptual components does help you be able to answer the case study questions as well. But I think that you have to ideally do both. So I'll tackle the conceptual questions first. So the way I study conceptual questions is that, you have all your reading material and you have a lot of the content. So I actually, when I review my material, I actually translate all the material into questions. So if I'm reading, like the other example I was using was lasso and ridge, if I'm reading about that and I see an explanation that says, hey, like typically when you're using something like lasso, it kind of performs feature selection for you. So as a result of that, ideally, when your coefficients are a lot higher for some variables and lower for others, lasso might work a little bit better in this scenario. So using that example, I can actually translate that into a question, basically asking, hey, what scenarios is it actually better to use lasso? And then what scenarios is it better to use ridge? So as I'm reviewing a lot of the material, I am actually translating them into questions. And then I have a flashcard system called Anki. And then I insert these questions into the flashcard system. And then I review the flashcards every day. And the benefit of Anki is that it uses a technique called spaced repetition. And the idea behind that is that when you're doing cramming is actually the least efficient way of learning. Ideally, you want to review material just as you're about to forget it, because once you're about to forget it, that is actually, and you review it and you're like at that tip of your tongue on trying to figure out what the answer is, and you just get it, you'll actually remember the answers a lot longer. So that's actually what this flashcard system is based off of. So what I do is I go through all the material, translate them into questions, and then I put these questions and answers into this flashcard system, and then I review these flashcards every day. And then the way I kind of pick what content to review is actually based off I think there's like two different types of content you can review. One is like foundational. So this is basically questions that you would get asked. And if you didn't know the answer, you would basically fail the interview. So for example, like in machine learning, if you get asked, hey, what is overfitting, and you don't know the answer, you're going to pretty much fail the interview. If in statistics you get asked, hey, what is a p-value, and you don't know what that is, you're going to fail the interview. So I separate it for the content that's foundational. These are things I have to know, otherwise I fail like the entire interview. And there's also concepts that are specific to that company. So if it's like a deep learning company or like causal inference, they'll ask me specific questions related to it. Because I have some experience in it, they'll ask me that. Then I'll review some of that content. So that's kind of like, this is kind of a long answer, but that's kind of the initial, I would say, content or like conceptual piece. So that's one portion of it. And then the other portion of it is on the case study side. So there's a website called Pramp, PRAMP.com, where you can actually do a lot of, say, like ML-based practice interview questions. It's free, so you don't need to pay for anything. And then you can like do it with somebody else. So they'll give you a case question and you'll try to answer it with ML. And it kind of gives you some good practice in trying to get comfortable, answering questions in front of somebody else. However, the thing is, for me, it's kind of slow because you have to like schedule everything. So what I actually did was I would actually go through company blog posts. So that there's like Airbnb blog or Netflix blog. And they write a lot of blog posts on solutions on like how they use data science to solve their problems. So what I would do is actually kind of translate their blog post into a question without reading it. And then I would try to like solve that problem initially by myself without any kind of hints. Then I would actually check what I did against, say, that blog post and in what exactly that company did. And basically 99% of the time, because they're like thinking about this, for hours and days and weeks. So my answer is definitely not as good as theirs. But I think that it's just that exercise of taking that question like a business problem and applying data science to it and thinking about how I would solve it and using that blog post to give me feedback is like another way of doing it as well. So yeah, I think that those would be two ways of tackling the machine learning interview.
I think that was essentially a boot camp course by itself. That was amazing. I don't believe I'm the only person that's heard this, right? You probably wrote about this in a blog post somewhere.
So I actually did not write about this in a blog post anywhere. This is just what I did, and
Wow.
I think it's definitely a good, definitely a good approach.
Your brain is so organized. I would love to set up shop there. You don't work with interview query, do you?
No, I don't. I mean, I use interview query actually. So and I've met Jay over Zoom a couple times, and I really like what they're doing. And I went through a lot of their practice questions as well. I think I was going through a lot of the statistics probability practice questions and SQL questions. So they were a pretty good resource too.
Gosh, I think you have, especially with your flashcards, you have the ability to really set up shop right next door and become a formidable partner or a formidable opponent. I have to ask 7 offers. That means you have to have 7 different parallel interview structures at the same time. And usually they would ask you, do you have anything else going on? You make sure you keep us in mind or keep us posted. And you must have had, one after another. And then the seventh person, I have 6 other companies lined up. Did that process ever become difficult to manage? Essentially, you're essentially like a logistics manager at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely it definitely got a bit difficult to manage. I mean, I think the first couple offers I got, I think I strongly considered them, but I would say that I kind of went back to what my career values were and what I was looking for. And I actually turned down the first 2 offers without actually having any other offers. So I actually decided, because I wanted to stick to what was important to me for my next position. So I actually turned down the first couple, which kind of made the timing work out. And then I had like another wave of offers later on, maybe after like 2 weeks after I turned down the first 2. And then, like once you get your one offer, it's very easy to there's a lot of social proof involved where you'll be more likely to get other offers after you get that first offer. So that's why I usually recommend people to aim for that first offer, because then the dominoes will fall, and it'll be like companies will kind of fight to kind of move you through their interview process once you have that other offer, and you have a lot more leverage just because you have a lot more options compared to, say, when you only have a single offer, you just have a lot less leverage in that scenario.
Feel free to avoid this question, but how much, what was the magnitude that you were able to leverage one offer against the other, from the starting offer that they offered you and then the final offer that they offered you?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because it's like one of the offers was in another country, so that's not really comparable. Like, the US is just going to pay way more than anywhere else, so that it's a little bit less comparable. But I guess if we were to compare US salaries and offers, I probably got it from the first offer to the one I accepted. It was probably like it's 60 to 70% jump in total compensation. Wow. Yeah.
And what do they give, on the baseline or on the stocks or on the bonus?
This was total. I'm seeing it as total compensation. So yeah, just like kind of, I think, so if we were to talk about baseline, it probably increased maybe from the first offer is probably 40, maybe like 30%, like 20 to 30% on that baseline base salary. And then on say stock options or just RSUs, it was probably more like, also about like 20 to 30%. I don't know if the numbers work out there, but that's kind of how I would eyeball it.
Did you wait until all your RSUs vested at DoorDash before leaving?
No, I didn't. I left. I would have had to stay for another 2 years to vest all the RSUs. Got
it. Yeah, it's always a tricky equation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about and how much. I want to make sure you have enough time. Are we going to go over if we pass 5?
Oh yeah, no, I don't really have anything after this, so we can go over.
Okay, I'll still be mindful of your time.
Yeah, no problem.
I wanted to ask about FANG companies. So I don't think any of those companies that you mentioned strictly count as FANG. Did you ever apply for FANG companies, and is there a reason why you excluded them?
I think, I'm not sure, like, with the definition of, I guess if Apple is included in FANG, they would.
Oh, shoot.
Technically.
Apple,
yeah.
Apple definitely is included in FANG.
Yeah.
I retract the question.
No worries.
Why did you turn away Apple, for example?
I honestly they were really, really close. It really came down to like Spotify, Apple, and Disney Plus. I think that for me, in terms of like fit, now we're kind of moving to my own core values. Like what is like the best fit with my own core values. I think that when I was evaluating the culture, I saw like Apple is generally a little bit more of a, say, secretive type of culture. They like to own the whole platform. Compared to Spotify has like one of their core values is collaboration, and you are like kind of sharing knowledge across the company. So I think that was like one of the things that kind of attracted me a little bit more to Spotify. Another one was a little bit more logistical because I wanted to move to New York, and then and Spotify was in New York. And then Apple said that they would be okay with me going to New York, but the whole team was in the Bay Area. So as a result of that, like I also didn't want to be the only person that was remote while the whole team was in the Bay Area as well. So that was like another factor. And then I also thought that like the job would better leverage my strengths. And I think that technically I do feel pretty confident and do feel pretty good at it, but I definitely feel like I'm pretty good at communicating relative to other data scientists. And I think Spotify would just have a lot more people-to-people interaction and stakeholder management, which I generally feel more comfortable doing.
Wow. You're so clear in your thought structure. Like, thank you for explaining that. Speaking of relative to other data scientists, you do not have a graduate degree. So that is something that a lot of people ask is, do you need a graduate degree? Well, you and Jay both were able to become data scientists without a graduate degree. You, so much so, 7 times over, right? So quick question. Have you ever been passed over for after the first or second interview because you didn't fit the right amount of experience? And have you ever applied to jobs that strictly said you must have a master's to apply? Thanks for staying until the end of the interview. Shoot. Here's what I wanted to say. I really appreciate you guys. Making YouTube videos is probably the best thing that I've been able to have as part of my life. Responding to these comments, interacting with you guys on Discord. It really is one of the most rewarding things I can imagine. And I hope I can do it for many years to come. I want you guys to be straight with me and tell me if you like the content that you see, and be honest with me when I'm taking steps towards content that doesn't seem true to what you expect from this channel. I really hope that this stays the best source of data industry experience and education you can possibly find out there, no matter how I'm able to share that with you in the future. Thank you guys so much. And have a great day.
Are you still there? To delete this message, press 7. To save it in the archives, press 9. To hear more options, press 0.
What are you talking about?